Thank you. So, sorry for the delay. I will talk to you about my findings from a qualitative empirical studies about the attitudes of Protestant RE teachers towards sustainability in the next few minutes. I did a qualitative empirical study in the last about 2 years, and this is also my dissertation project. So for the context, a quick overview about my topics for the next minutes. First of all, I will give you a brief introduction into the research objectives and questions, then into the discourse in religious education, my methodological approach, and then finally, the main part will be the key findings of the empirical study. I guess that's the most interesting thing for you. But first of all, my research objectives. I wanted to expand the perspective of religious education on the topic of sustainability. There are hardly any empirical studies in this area, as far as I know. By asking about the role of religious education in relation to sustainability and education for sustainable development from the perspective of religious education teachers. So that is my main focus, the perspective of the teachers. My two main questions are, what attitudes do Protestant RE teachers at compulsory school in Austria have towards sustainability? And how do they view their role as RE teachers in relation to education for sustainable development? Just a quick look into the discourse in religious education. I will not talk about that in depth because that's the main issue of the conference. So I will just focus on these three concepts. First of all, I have to mention the concept of religious education for sustainable development that is mainly shaped by Katrin Pederna. She wanted to anchor ESD in the religious education discourse and describes religious education for sustainable development as transformation education from a messianic perspective. And the main one main focus is participation and the personal creative possibilities. The second concept by Claudia Gärtner is political religious education for sustainable development. She brings together the concept of Katrin Pederna of religious ESD and the concept of political theology with the perception of complexity and interdisciplinarity that creates areas of tensions. And the third concept is religious education and externalizing lifestyle by Gudrun Spanskotsky. She asks, how does religious education position itself in view of current crises and challenges? And she says one of the most important things in the education of teachers and RE teachers is that they have to reflect the effects of the personal lifestyle. We know that there is a mind-behavior gap when we talk about sustainability. We know how to do it, but we often don't behave the way we should do it, or we think we should do it. And she states that we have to develop a mindful attitude and relate what we have learned to our own behavior. She's strongly focusing on the education of teachers and especially RE teachers. So that discourse in religious education is the basis for my study. I did empirical study, as I said before, and I did individual interviews with RE teachers. And for that interviews, first of all, I had to develop an interview guide. So what I took as a basis for that interview guide was the theoretical foundations that I've talked before. And I did group interviews with two groups of 3 or 4 religious education teachers to get a first impression on what they think of when they think of sustainability. What are their first thoughts? What comes to their mind when they hear the word sustainability? So to get an idea of where they meet sustainability in their personal life, in their school life, everyday school life, and in the theory classes. And with that basis, I've created the interview guide. And then I did interviews with 16 Protestant RE teachers from compulsory schools in Austria. The interviews were about 30 to 60 minutes long, and I've recorded them and transcribed them, of course, and analyzed them with the help of qualitative content analysis. And with the help of that, I found 5 main categories in the interviews, which are personal approaches and descriptions. So how the RE teachers describe sustainability and what are their personal approaches. Then observation in everyday school life. So where they meet sustainability, the broad issue, in their everyday school life. Not focused on RE classes. Then sustainability as a topic in RE classes. So with which topics do they bring in sustainability in their RE classes? Then function of RE teachers and RE classes. That is strongly about the role model of the RE teachers and how can RE classes help bringing the issue of sustainability to the pupils. And finally, reflection on opportunities and challenges of the sustainability in RE classes or for RE teachers. So that's the categories, and I will now talk about my key findings, but not along the 5 categories, but along topics. And the first one is that I would say that the results reflect the diversity of topics covered in the concept of sustainability. That's not a huge surprise when we talk about sustainability. There are a lot of issues that are connected to it. Most of the RE teachers that I've talked to first mentioned the ecological dimension of sustainability, but we also have a social dimension. We also have an economic dimension of sustainability. But the ecological dimension is the first thing that comes to their mind. But they also talk about the social dimension. The RE teachers that I've talked to mention how important it is to network and to work interdisciplinary in the schools. Sustainability is not only a topic for science classes or only for RE classes. The classes have to work together. That's what they have highlighted in the interviews. And what was a bit surprising for me was that none of the RE teachers mentioned the concept of education for sustainable development or the sustainable development goals. I haven't asked if they know the concepts, but none of them mentioned it. The second topic I want to talk about is responsibility and mission. Especially responsibility is a main issue for the RE teachers, and they always take their own faith as a reference point and argue with responsibility for creation. That's why they bring in sustainability into their RE classes. And one of the teachers said, we are all responsible for this. You have to work on sustainability in their RE classes. Then the next topic is the reflective approach to sustainability. I would say that the RE teachers that I've talked to are really reflective when they talk about sustainability. They engage themselves with their own lifestyle. They think about, is my lifestyle sustainable when it comes to, for example, mobility or building a house was an issue for two of the teachers. I would say they have a quite realistic view. They have no unrealistic ideas of we have the great everyone has to live sustainable all the time. They say it's better to start with small steps, one step after the other. And that's what they tell themselves and what they try to live, but also what they try to bring to their pupils. They say to them, you don't have to save the world in one big action, but do it step by step. And one of the teachers said, I can't save the world either, but I can start to change things step by step. And that's also something that RE classes can do by talking with the pupils, for example. What is important to them is being authentic as a role model. So you can't say, I live 100% sustainable and don't talk about they called it their oops that also happen. It is important to admit and communicate that you can't be sustainable 100% all the time, because then you are authentic for your pupils. And that was really fascinating for me because many of the RE teachers argued in this direction. So another important topic is creation and relationship. I've talked about the responsibility for creation. The RE teachers argue theologically why they are engaged for sustainability. It's responsibility for creation. And this responsibility for creation brings in the relationship level, relationship between people and God, between people and the whole world around them. And that is really important to the RE teachers that I've talked to. They say relationship is the basis for everything that connected to sustainability. And especially in the RE classes, they can work on that relationship building because Protestant RE classes in compulsory schools in Austria are mainly quite small groups where you have groups of, I don't know, 3 to 5 children. And as a teacher, you usually know your pupils. There is a quite strong relationship, which makes a safe space for question and a very special working atmosphere. And the RE teachers argue that in this atmosphere and with this special relationship, it's easy for them to work on such big issues as sustainability. The next topic is power, lack of power, and guilt. Many RE teachers question their own influence in schools because they often have a lot of schools where they are working. So it can happen that they are in a school only once a week. sometimes only for an hour a week. So how big is the influence they have in this school? And they argue that it's hard for them, that they don't know the other teachers, they can't work on projects together, so they can't do anything. They can work with their children, but not that they have in the RE class, but not in the school. That's one important point that they mention about their own power that they have. And one of the RE teachers told me that she observed in the teachers' room in a school that the teachers were not able to separate the waste correctly. And she said, if we don't manage it, how are the children supposed to manage it? So she's questioning the role model of the teachers. Another point, referring to the lack of power, is the lack of transparency and the complex connections. It's not always easy working with sustainability. It was not only one, some teachers said, sometimes it's quite hard to understand, is something really sustainable or is it greenwashing? They say it's hard for them to see what it really is and how can we bring that to the children when but the question of power comes also when it with the curriculum. The RE teachers says that they can decide on priorities within the curriculum. So if sustainability is important to them, they can make an emphasis on that if they want to. Of course, there are ambivalent feelings referring to success and failure. But as I've said before, it is important for the RE teachers to admit unsustainable actions and choices, and not only admit it to themselves, but also tell the pupils if it happens or if they see it so. Then my last topic is, of course, opportunities and obstacles for RE classes. The relationship level is something that's really important for the RE teachers that I've talked to. That's that they see an opportunity that they can include the students' environment because they know their students so well, and they can include the questions they have. It is important for the RE teachers to pass on and communicate responsibility by setting an example. It's so important for them being a role model when it comes to sustainability. On the other hand, many of them say they have little influence at particular schools. I've talked about that before. And huge issue is the question of mobility of the RE teachers. When they have a lot of schools where they work, most of them have to go from school to school by car because otherwise it wouldn't be possible for them. But I would say that most of the RE teachers are quite positive when it comes to sustainability, that they try to integrate it into their RE classes. And that they really want to be role models for them, for their pupils. But in the end, I have to bring in that, however, I think I have talked to a very special sample because there were hardly any critical perspectives on sustainability. And I guess there are RE teachers that are critical about sustainability in RE classes, but they didn't volunteer for the interviews. But I would be really curious on their views on sustainability. So thank you for your attention.